They realize it's too late. For a time it was believed there would be a return, that the distance was temporary, that all it would take was one gesture, one message, one request, and everything would fall back into place. But time passed, and nothing remained. Some waited, some endured absences, silences, disrespect, and even then they stayed, until they stopped staying. That's how they lost you, not because of a single mistake, but due to the accumulation of small resignations disguised as pride. They believed the other side would beg, that they wouldn't be able to handle the emptiness, that they would keep trying even while being ignored, even while always being placed last. But there came a point when the name that once caused pain stopped evoking anything at all, and that is the true end. Today, the name that once held hope is just a memory of something that won't come back. And now they feel. They miss you. They feel guilty. They feel that everything that was neglected is now out of reach, and there's no one left to respond. Not even anyone left to wait. Those who were there are gone. They left on the day they stopped trying, on the day they understood that insisting wasn't love, it was self-neglect. And the hardest part to accept, there was no warning, there was no shout, there was no drama, there was exhaustion, there was a limit. Today, the silence that was used as punishment has become a definitive response. Too late to go back, too late to be heard, too late to fix what was ignored for so long. And now, all that's left is to realize that what seemed guaranteed was fragile, to realize that no one waits forever, to realize that those who are absent for too long end up returning to a place where they are no longer remembered. It was on that day, at that exact moment when you didn't feel anything upon hearing that name. Not pain, not longing, not anger, just silence, an echo of absence with no strength to come back. Ali, without fanfare, without promises, without requests, something inside you closed off, and what once was expectation turned into forgetfulness. Natural, calm, final. You realize it too late, but it's not just any realization. It's a type of awareness that hurts inside because it doesn't come with noise, it doesn't come with confrontation. It arrives with a devastating clarity that what you let slip away is no longer within reach. And then the realization hits, with a weight no words could alleviate, the realization that everything that was taken for granted simply disappeared. It vanished in the same silence that was once used as punishment. There was a time when you believed in a return. There were even those who said, "It's just a phase. They'll work it out. Just give it time." But time doesn't heal what isn't nurtured. Time alone doesn't resolve abandonment. And the truth is that there was someone there who endured more than they should have, who swallowed words that shouted inside their chest, who accepted little, hoping that little would eventually become presence. It didn't, and yet that someone stayed while being ignored, stayed even when they knew they weren't a priority, stayed until they could no longer stay. Because there comes a moment when the heart, even still wanting, gives up, and it's not easy to reach that point. It's a slow, almost invisible process, made up of accumulated disappointments, of shattered hopes one by one, of promises that never came, of messages that never arrived, of weights that only fed the pain. You don't lose someone all at once. You lose them gradually, in unspoken silences, in delays that never resolve, in the priorities we never become. And so it drifted away, without screams, without fights, without drama. It just stopped trying, stopped believing, stopped waiting, until the name that once caused a tightness in the chest turned into just another name, a fact from the past, a memory without a future. It's here that the realization hurts. Because when those who left were still waiting, whoever thought they could play with absence thought there would always be time, thought it would be enough to just show up again, and everything would return to normal. But it didn't, because something changed. And what changed was you. You stopped begging, stopped blaming yourself, stopped belittling yourself. You began to realize that your worth shouldn't have to be proven every day, that those who love you don't make you doubt your own significance, that reciprocity isn't a favor, it's a foundation. You realized you were abandoning yourself, calling it love, and the worst part is that those who lost you only realized it when there was nothing left to save. They believed out of pride that you would come back, that you would insist once more, that you would accept less and just one more time. But no, the name that once was hope is now in the past, and there is no more room for what no longer makes sense. You've already realized it's not about hurt, it's not even about anger, it's about peace. A peace earned through pain, through hidden tears, through nights spent questioning if you were right to continue. And now you see the right thing was to stop, because loving yourself will never be wrong. And time, time. It reveals, it unmasks, it shows who truly felt and who just pretended to feel. Today, those who lost you feel the absence, feel regret, feel that they underestimated you, feel that they neglected you for too long, but you no longer feel what you used to feel, because what once was no longer pulses. Love that isn't nurtured dies. Love that is always postponed cools off. Love that is only remembered in absence doesn't survive. You became absence. And now those who lost you are trying to talk to ghosts, searching for a reflection of who you were, but not realizing that this reflection no longer exists. You left in silence, and that was your loudest scream. You departed without a goodbye, and that was your clearest answer, because you realized that insisting would be betraying yourself. That continuing would be belittling yourself. Accepting would mean destroying yourself. And you chose to live. You chose your own healing. You chose your own presence. You chose to respect your own heart. And those who lost you now realize they see what they had. They see what they threw away. They see who you were. They see how much you were loved and didn't know how to handle it. But it's too late. And this is the part that hurts. It hurts because now there's no one to listen. There's no one left to wait. There's no one left to care. Time was generous for a long time, but even it has limits. Those who lost someone only understand after the complete absence, after the real emptiness, after the irreversible end. Now the name no longer touches the heart. Now the gesture no longer moves. Now the request no longer convinces. You became a memory in the heart of those who loved you, and that cannot be undone. And the hardest part to accept is that there was no fatal mistake. There were small abandonments, small forgettings, small failures that became routine. And that's what killed it. It wasn't betrayal, it wasn't a fight, it wasn't an offense, it was the daily neglect, the lack of care in the ordinary, the emotional absence that repeated itself every day. And what hurt was realizing that you loved alone, but that no longer hurts because you're no longer there. Those who stayed are now alone, and you are now whole. And those who lose someone whole never find them again. Do you understand this? Do you realize this? Because what comes after the end is not forgetting. It's transformation. When you stop being the one who begs and start being the one who finds themselves, the world around you also changes. The messages that never arrived no longer matter. The requests that never came no longer count. The waiting that consumed you has ceased to exist. You return to yourself, and that's something no one can take from you. Because when you realize that nothing is more cruel than abandoning yourself for love, you change. You change your perspective, you change your rhythm, you change what you accept, and you change what you will never allow again. It's not arrogance, it's self-compassion. It's a living memory of what hurt, and now you protect it with walls of awareness. You noticed, and that frightens those who lost you. Because while you were crying, they thought you would come back. While you were silent, they thought it was submission. But now, the silence has become your healing, your absence, your shield, your presence reserved for those who truly see you. No more begging for affection, no more accepting scraps, no more negotiating your own worth. Those who lost you now face something irreversible. You are no longer the same person they abandoned. The one who said, "I'm fine," when she wasn't. The one who said, "I understand," when she was being hurt. The one who smiled to avoid conflict and cried in secret to maintain the bond. She no longer exists. In her place is someone who chose to stay with those who never left. You. Isn't it strange? How someone can neglect you for so long and still be shocked that you're no longer there? How can someone repeatedly push you away and then act like they were the ones left behind? The answer is simple, painful, and clear. They never believed you would realize. They thought your love would blind you, that your devotion was eternal, that your absence would be temporary. They thought your capacity to feel would keep you trapped there forever. But you felt everything, until you stopped feeling. And that's the kind of awareness that changes everything, because now You are the one who won't return. And what made you leave was exactly what was never said. The absences that no one acknowledged, the pains that no one validated, the distances that were treated as normal. Love starved to death. Not for lack of physical presence, but for lack of emotional presence, of care, of choice, of effort. And now, those who lost you try to rebuild something on top of the emotional ruins they themselves caused. But you're no longer there. You've moved to a different home, a different energy, a different universe. You now occupy spaces where your light is welcomed, where your soul is perceived, where your voice is heard without the need to shout. And that has no turning back. And no matter how much pain tries to return, it finds no place anymore. Because what used to hurt now teaches. What used to suffocate now guides. What used to break you now strengthens you. The wound has turned into a portal, and you crossed it. Yes, you still remember. There are still days when the longing throb. There are still nights when the absence settles in. But you no longer wish to go back. You wish to move forward, to build, to flow. Because what was left behind wouldn't recognize you anymore. You have grown. While it slept, you awoke. While it fled, you faced. While it vanished, you redefined yourself. You have become your own salvation. And now those who couldn't stay will have to deal with the silence of no longer having access. They will have to face the definitive absence. They will have to confront the mirror of their own negligence, because no one disappears so much without losing everything. And those who once used silence as a form of punishment now feel the weight of true silence, the kind where no one is left on the other side. You have become an echo, and the echo does not respond. It only returns what was said. It only repeats what was done. And everything that was done now returns like a mirror, a harsh mirror, cold, faithful. That shows exactly what was lost. Without a chance to recreate, you have become the past. And those who were once your present will have to live with this absence, not out of revenge, not out of pride, but for emotional justice. Because those who lose you by choice cannot regain you out of longing. Longing is a pain that comes after abandonment. But it is never enough to rebuild what has shattered from a lack of love, because the attempt to return always comes, but it comes late. It comes twisted. It comes in haste, as if time could be undone with a high. The mind begins to seek excuses. The heart, now empty, tries to find shortcuts. The memory fails to admit the fault, but the body feels. It feels what has gone away, feel what doesn't come back. And that's where the desperate cycle of regret begins. Messages pop up in the middle of the night. Hey, I thought about you. I dreamed about you last night. Do you still feel anything? As if those words were bridges, as if just a notification on your phone could rebuild what was silently destroyed. But you are no longer the same person who was lit up by those words, because now you notice the nuances. You see what you used to overlook. You realize the poorly spent time, the repeated excuses, the patterns of absence, the cycles disguised as affection. You've seen this film before, and now with a clear soul you watch as a spectator, not as a victim. They want to come back, but not for love, for control, for the nostalgia of an ego stroked, for the emotional dependency of someone who knew they would always be forgiven. But that won't happen anymore, because you realize that loving does not mean hurting yourself, and you no longer bleed to keep anyone. Maybe they'll cry, maybe they'll make promises, maybe they'll post hints. But you know the difference between remorse and regret, between missing what was comfortable and the genuine desire to be different. And the saddest part? They haven't changed. What changed was your perception. What changed was your view on love. What changed was your center of gravity. You stepped out of their axis to find your own, and no one can take you away from that. So when the attempt to return comes, you will feel, but not yield. You will listen, but not respond. You will remember, but not go back. Because the love you built within yourself is greater than any crumb disguised as a new beginning. You no longer need to prove your worth. Those who didn't see you when you were pleading for presence do not deserve the privilege of being heard, when only silence remains. This is the true turning point. When you understand that some apologies are just attempts to escape guilt, and that accepting someone back is not always a sign of forgiveness. Sometimes it's just a fear of being alone. But you no longer have that fear. You learn to keep yourself company, to take care of yourself when no one was around, to listen to yourself when everything around was noise. And now, any love that wants to stay must be whole. It must be constant, present, chosen. Because you no longer accept people who disappear in tough times and only come back when they miss you. You are a home, not an emotional hotel. If this makes sense to you, right here, I am a home, and only those who know how to stay may enter, or share it with someone who still thinks that love means waiting endlessly for those who only know how to leave. And now that you see all of this clearly, peace comes that no longer depends on answers. It brings the lightness of knowing that you are not hard to love. You were just trying to be loved by those who couldn't see you, and in that moment, you set yourself free. Because there are no more pending matters, no more voids, no more expectations, just you. You and your whole presence. You and your clarity. You and the certainty that what is meant to stay does not need to hurt you to prove that it's real. You don't want perfect love. You want possible love, real, available, mutual. And that now is a filter, a criterion, a boundary. Because if it's not light, you won't carry it. If it's not true, you won't plant it. If it's not whole, you won't allow it. You have become a sacred territory, and anyone who wants to enter will have to come in barefoot, respecting, honoring, staying. If this touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Comment here about what you realized about yourself. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and let's continue this journey together.